Welcome to the Big Black Hat Man YouTube channel's Top 10 list. Now, I've seen a lot of westerns over the years, and honestly, I can't count all that I've seen. And the earliest one I've seen is 1924's The Iron Horse. The last one I've seen was 2008's Appaloosa. And the point after this is that I've seen a lot of westerns, but not all of them. Now, Hollywood always caters to many different kinds, and, well, you may have seen a western that I haven't seen, or may have seen one that didn't make my top 10 list. So, I always enjoy constructive criticism. Telling me I suck does not help. So, without further ado, here's the top 10 list.
Number 10, True Grit. This movie, released in 1969, is probably best known for gaining John Wayne his one and only Best Actor Oscar. The film tells the story of a girl who lost her father to a man with a history of violence and a quest to gain vengeance for the crime. To that end, she employs Rooster Cogburn, played by Wayne, to hunt down the man in Indian Territory. They are also joined by a Texas Ranger who's looking for the man. The movie climaxes in an absolutely epic showdown between Cogburn and the outlaws the man is joined up with. Cogburn's proficiency with the gun is a little unrealistic, but it looks really cool.
So what's good about this movie? Well, obviously it's John Wayne and Kim Darby who plays the girl Mattie Ross. The two have an interesting conflict and repartee throughout the film, as both a couple of hard-bitten characters. Ross is the tomboy that takes care of her father's farm and always gets her way. Rooster Cogburn, played by Wayne, is a hard-bitten, hard-drinking man who doesn't like hanging outlaws, but vastly prefers just shoot them where they are. The two definitely come into conflict at first because of their characters, but as the movie goes along, they develop a sort of relationship out of the fact that the girl's just lost her father, with Cogburn filling that role. Now, other good things to enjoy about this film are the villains, led by Robert Duvall as Ned Pepper. He's pretty young in this film, and you might enjoy seeing him at that age. And the other good thing about it is the deadpan comical attitude. I mean, this movie could have easily been a very heavy and sad film, but they have some good comedy in it to keep it moving along. What's not so good about this film? Most obviously, it's Glen Campbell. I like Glen Campbell, and he's a good singer, and he made all the effort he could for this film, but his acting just hasn't come along enough, and Wayne often overshadows him badly enough you almost forget he's there. Also, I would have to say the score's not all that good. Westerns have always depended on their music, and this one's got a real blasé score, with the music almost completely fading away. So why did the film make this list? Pretty easily, because it's just fun to watch. Fun from beginning to end. The showdown at the end, the characters joking back and forth, and everything there is to like about a movie is right here in True Grit.
Number 9, Open Range. This movie was released in 2005 by star and director Kevin Costner. Robert Duvall, Michael Gambon, and Annette Bening lead a well-rounded cast. The movie tells the story of two free grazing herders, played by Costner and Duvall, who come into conflict with a big landowner, played by Gambon. Tensions rise between the two sides as Gambon's men harass and even kill one of Duvall's men, until the two sides finally have it out in an epic battle. Costner and Bening also have a love story taking place along the main plot.
About this one? Well, it's pretty easily the acting. From top to bottom, it's just a great cast. With solid characters and solid developments, with motivations that are clearly explained and understood, there's no real holes for this plot throughout the movie. It's easy to understand, and a pretty good one at that. And on top of that, they have a great shootout at the end, which has a lot of realism in it. Now, if somebody really drew down a 6-shooter on you, they probably wouldn't hit you outside of 10 feet, which they display in this movie. Rifles, they're accurate. They have rifling and everything that makes it very easy to hit something, but 6-shooters aren't. One criticism I've heard for this movie that I just don't buy and would like to address here is the relationship that develops between Kevin Costner and Annette Bening. People have said it was awkward. Well, of course it's awkward. Costner's a range cowboy. He's been around men his entire life. How would he know to talk to a woman? And the same goes for Bening. The only man she talks to is her brother. So, what's weak about this film? Well, in as much as it's motivated and explains things, it also drags a little bit. There's times when they explain things when they didn't really need to. Like, Costner goes ahead and tells you about his past after I think the audience has pretty much figured out what he used to do, that he used to be a bad guy who shot people. It's not hard to figure out. And if I have to say anything, I'd say Michael Gambon, who plays the villain, sort of slips into some cliches towards the end of the film, but it's not overt. So why did this make this list? Well, pretty easy. Western slipped into obscurity after the 1970s, but this is a really great one with an epic story, definitely worth watching.
Number 8, Blazing Saddles. Well, not much of a plot here. A black sheriff comes to guard a white town, and hilarity ensues. It's all part of a villain's plan to scheme away the town. Mel Brooks is one of the great comic directors, and he creates a hilarious moment, one after another, to keep the audience engaged, even when the plot is a little thin. Gene Wilder and Cleavon Little give funny performances as the two main protagonists against the hackneyed villains portrayed by Harvey Korman and Slim Pickens.
So what's good about this movie? Well, that's easy. It's hilarious. Maybe one of the funniest movies of all time. Westerns actually had a long tradition of humor in their genre. Support Your Local Sheriff and They Call Me Trinity are two other films that have a very reasonable argument for making it as a funny movie. The Blazing Saddles is definitely my favorite, with jokes start to finish that make fun of everything from racism to political corruption to toll booths. You gotta enjoy this one. It's not just about the westerns, but I'm going to tell you, if you do enjoy westerns, it's got a lot of great jokes, especially the opening theme. Even that's funny for somebody who knows a lot about the history of westerns. So what's not so great about this film? Well, there's not a whole lot, but it was made in 1974, so some of the jokes are just a little dated, but I think most of it's pretty easy to pick up on. The other thing that's maybe a little unfortunate is the fact that most people don't realize that Richard Pryor was involved with this one and was actually slated to play the lead character as the sheriff. Unfortunately, his name carried too much controversy at the time, and so he was cut from the project along with his name. But just remember, he did have a lot to do with it. So why'd this make this list? That's easy. It's hilarious, and it's the funniest Western out there. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't go out there and watch the other things like They Call Me Trinity and Blazing and Support Your Local Sheriff, but Blazing Saddles should be definitely tops on your list. So go out there and watch them. Right now. It's got to be better than this. Go.
Number 7, Once Upon a Time in the West. Sergio Leone often gets associated with his work that included Clint Eastwood in the trilogy that made both their careers. Though I like A Fistful of Dollars for a Few Dollars More and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, both men went on to do better work. Once Upon a Time in the West brings together all the good things about Leone's earlier work. The story is one of the railroad progressing across the West and the people looking to fulfill their dreams through that progression. The joke has often been made that this movie has little dialogue and a lot of close-ups. However, it all makes sense in the context.
So what's good about this film? Well, pretty clearly it's Charles Bronson, Henry Fonda, Jason Robards, and Claudia Cardinale. Bronson plays the lead as Harmonica. Fast as heck and very witty. Plays a great leading role looking for revenge on Frank, played by Henry Fonda, who's pretty clearly the villain. Fonda didn't play a lot of villains, but did a great job here. As a matter of fact, he kind of established himself early by shooting a kid, which gives you the nature of the character. Jason Robards plays a character that sets off a nice dynamic with the other two characters. He plays Cheyenne, the leader of a group of bandits who's pulled into the whole thing through circumstance, and brings some nice levity and character to the whole movie. And of course, I can't not talk about Claudia Cardinale. Leone didn't have a lot of female leads in his movies, but here he brings one along and does a very nice job. Cardinale shows off her sexuality in the movie, but also her wit in getting exactly what she wants at the end of the picture. Also great about this movie, Ennio Morricone's music. His music was always great for films. In the Dollars trilogy, everybody remembers the music. And this one's no exception. It's very memorable and gives you the nature of the characters. Criticism for this film are that the dialogue's a little lacking. There's a lot of close-ups, but it makes sense within the context of the film, and it's still very enjoyable. And of course, there's some who said that Eastwood should have played the harmonica role played by Bronson, but I'm glad Bronson did it because it brought a different dynamic to a Leone film, and I don't think Eastwood could have pulled off some of the wittier lines. So why is this movie on the list? Pretty easily, because I love this film. It's just fun to watch and a great story with good characters. So I highly recommend Once Upon a Time in the West.
Number 6, The Outlaw Josie Wales. Clint Eastwood's grizzled face is one of the most iconic in Western history. In The Outlaw Josie Wales, Eastwood intimidates as a man who has a name but lacks a purpose. He was a man with a family. However, they are killed by Union raiders, which leads Wales, played by Eastwood, to join with the Confederates in an attempt to exact revenge. He fails to get it in the war, but he becomes an outlaw hunted by the men who killed his family. The rest of the film is a long chase with many meetings, including Eastwood's real-life girlfriend, Sandra Locke, and ends up with an epic fight, which leads me to believe it's part of any good Western or something like that.
So what's good about this one? Well, Clint Eastwood just at his intimidating best. As a horse soldier who can take on anybody at any time with just 6 guns. And, of course, he starts out as a loner, but quickly gains an interesting cast around him, led by none other than Chief Dan George as Lone Whitey. Now, an interesting thing about this one is that B-Westerns had always had sidekicks, but those characters had disappeared as Westerns became more serious. This is sort of a revival of that character, and a very good one at that, because Chief Dan George plays a hilarious part. He gives comedy to what would be otherwise be just a pure shoot-'em-up. And it is a good shoot-'em-up at that. The action is excellent, playing out from scene to scene with Eastwood being intimidating and other characters dropping left and right in front of him. So what's bad about the film? Well, honestly, the plot really is just there to get Clint Eastwood from one gun battle to the next, and Dan George from one joke to the next. And also it's got Sandra Locke in it. Nobody likes Sandra Locke. She can't act for anything. She completely ruins Bronco Belly all by herself. I hate Sandra. Anyway, getting back to the point about not liking Sandra Locke. Oh, wait, no. I mean, The Outlaw Josie Wales. This movie is just fun and has very few weaknesses, but it does have a lack of a plot. So why is this film on the list? Quite frankly, Clint Eastwood is one of the most enigmatic and popular characters to ever don the Western. Outside of John Wayne, pretty much he's the one everybody knows, and this is one of his best. So, The Outlaw Josie Wales, if you like action, is the movie for you.